Welcome to another episode of The Nines, presented by AT&T. I'm Monte Cristo, and I'm here on the Cloud9 channel. I'm going to be joined by two people who are absolutely elated, filled with joy to be talking with me for the next hour. Not at all disappointed about their loss to Team Liquid. It's Perkz, the mid laner, and Mithy, the head coach of Cloud9. Are you guys excited for the next hour where we talk about why you lost?
Oh, yeah.
Look, guys, I know it's tough, but we all know that you guys are going to make an epic run through the losers bracket, just like Cloud or TSM did last summer, right? All the way through the losers bracket into first place, no problem, right?
Correct.
It's just you guys just earned yourself more games and more opportunities to prove how dominant you are in the long term. That's the way I look at it. So first off, let's start with week 9, because you guys played Team Liquid in week 9 and you had a really dominant victory. Perkz had a very good game on Twisted Fate. So what was your mindset coming into these playoffs to start things off? Because it seemed like you were really turning things around. The game you lost to TSM was super close. You guys, with a couple fewer mistakes, could have easily won that game. So your attitude has probably been pretty good, right?
Yeah, I think going into the series, obviously we thought we were going to beat TL.
I thought that too.
Yeah, it just didn't happen, right? I think we had like a few plans coming into the series. Like obviously we wanted to first see if they could beat the same plan that we did at the end of the split, at the regular split, right? And then from there just sort of build into whatever they show and just adapt. And yeah, just like fell short, I guess.
Perkz, were you surprised by some of the champions that we saw Jensen pulling out? Because even though he has kind of played the Lee Sin earlier in the split, certainly not at this level that we saw, and he seemed like he was playing a lot better than he did in week 9 versus you guys overall. Was this a surprise to you guys, or?
I kind of knew what champions they could play. I think the biggest surprise is basically like their prio on Ziggs and basically Cordier spending not like a lot of time in the bottom actually. And I think it made us, including myself, like lose our heads a bit. I think we responded to their plays poorly instead of focusing on our plays. Yeah, like we tried to match their plays and they were just going wrong. Also think we were misplaying a bit, so I think that was just like we got a bit like tunnel vision on like 2 or 3 picks in the draft that we thought they were going to be prior picks for them, but they didn't end up being prior picks for them at all. And then they had this Ziggs shenanigans with from Rome. I think that threw us all off a bit, honestly. So yeah, besides that, that's basically it. Yeah. All the champs that they played, we kind of knew they could play.
The Ziggs pick, and I was actually talking to Raz yesterday, and he had a very interesting stat that he said, which is that especially in game 4, when Core JJ was on the Shen, he had like the lowest duo presence of any game he's ever seen, which means that after 2.5 minutes, he was only in lane in bot lane with tactical on the map like 2% of the time. So he was basically just never there. He was just playing Shen somewhere else on the map.
Yeah, he was River Shen.
Which I can imagine was extremely frustrating to play against, especially when Ziggs is so strong right now after the buffs in terms of the wave clear, because he becomes really hard to dive without the minion wave and pretty much self-sufficient. And I guess we saw that a little bit earlier this season used by 100 Thieves, but I have to say I was surprised to see it come out in this series. But I think it's hard for AD carries to be impactful in the current meta compared to solo laners, where it feels like a lot of the AD carry picks are just clearing waves or like applying pressure to objectives. Has this been something you guys have been noticing as well, or trying to adapt to? Because you were picking Varus first a lot of times in the series and really prioritizing the champion.
Yeah, most definitely. I pretty much agree with everything you said. The reason why we're picking Varus early is because they have like a very high priority on Varus. and we didn't really
Or
have.
they had.
Well, we don't know, right?
Yeah, we don't actually know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what they have a high priority because they surprised me a lot with their draft. So,
but basically the point is that we didn't really have an answer to them wanting Varus, so we thought it's best if we just take it away, since Jesper also had a good performance on Varus the game before, and we just sort of like played out from there. And overall, like Lucas said at the beginning, I think it was just a matter of us going crazy when Shen was never bought, instead of just like being patient and trusting that we're gonna get a turn eventually, right? Like, yeah, I think that's what, like, we just sort of played into their game instead of like having a game of our own, and then we just misplayed when we're fighting them where we are supposed to. Like we have the disadvantage, like in the fights, you know, because of how the game goes, how the skirmishing power goes for each comp, and we just didn't really play to our strengths at all, and that cost us on game 4 more than any other game, I'd say.
one thing that I was curious about with you guys is that you had been doing so well with Twisted Fate, and Twisted Fate seems like a very powerful champion in the meta right now, but it was going completely unpicked and banned throughout this entire draft. Not that I expected Team Liquid to take it, given Jensen's history on the champion, but do you guys have any insight as to why you moved your priority away from this champ when you had just beaten Team Liquid with it very convincingly?
I think that the drafts were just like, for example, I wanted to pick TF in game 1, but I opted for a different pick, and then from then onwards, I think TF wasn't actually suiting in drafts very well. Like either against their champs or with our champs. I think game 1 was the best TF game I would have, and I think I definitely did not play my highest prior champions, and I kind of know from the series like what I think I should be playing from now on. So I don't want to reveal too much, you know.
Of
maybe
course.
someone is watching this show and then
Of course.
snipes me out. I actually have this list of my champions that I want to play, and I thought about posting it before playoffs, but now that we lost game 1, I'm like kind of happy I didn't post it too.
No, I'm sure you have alternate selections, but you know, a lot of the times I would say your champions weren't even that big of an issue. Like your Orianna in game 1, you had some really good ults and plays later on. It's just you guys were too far behind to really capitalize on the team fights. Like you fell so far behind in the early game. And then also I was curious, you guys were really flexing the Viego around. So Perkz, do you feel like Viego, how viable do you think he is still mid lane, considering that he had the pretty serious sustained nerfs in some of these? You know, it makes it a lot harder, but you can still flex him, and you guys were willing to do that, both flexing him into top lane and into mid.
I've seen him in LPL quite a bit, and he's been played some other regions as well. I don't think he's very strong. I think that was probably the worst draft we had, because I took Viego, because he just doesn't push, but he can go even against a lot of things. The problem is that we had 3 losing lanes and a losing jungle matchup, so we were like kind of bound to get behind because of that. Also, I think we misplayed the top lane sequence quite like poorly, like Cinder on top, and Diana started fighting Lee Sin in the wave, and then Lee Sin hit the Q and he got really chunky into flash. Instead of just staying under turret and waiting for them to actually make a mistake, we just get chunked to 1 hit, and then basically we get sieged on. So I think that was like kind of like really hard to come back from that, or like level 3, and it really sucks when the game is like lost level 3, like that kind of thing. So there might be a champion I might not be pulling back, even though I could have actually pulled him back in game 4. I think I could have pulled him back in game 4, but I was reluctant to pick him because we lost with it. I think it would have been a great pick in game 4. Honestly, I think TL's draft was fucking dog shit game 4. I don't actually think we should have ever lost this draft. I think that one was my bad. Definitely should have won the draft.
I do question in game 4, had you guys been able to get ahead, what they would have been able to do, because the only thing they could do is clear waves with Ziggs and 1 lane, and they weren't going to be able to defend any other turrets with all their melee champs. So it seemed like if they didn't get ahead very early, that they were going to have huge problems in the late game.
I think Shen's support was absolutely useless, and I think if we just didn't lose our heads, he would be completely dog shit the rest of the game. So it's fine. Like I hope they pick it again. I hope I just get the chance to face Steel again this playoffs. Like I will actually expose them. Like I'm serious. Like I'm so angry.
How are you feeling about this, Mithy? You've been quiet. Are you frustrated that they were able to win with some of these compositions as well?
I think Luca described it well. I mean, I'm not frustrated. I think we just played poorly and didn't play off our conditions. And sure, there was like I think the game 2 draft was very bad, but I think every other game, I don't think it was like a question. I think it was just more gameplay than anything. And like, I can't even tell if it was draft related because the game was just over before it started. And I think we were just not able to play well enough, and they were just a better team that day.
One thing that I think people will be quick to criticize just because it's not exactly meta right now, even though it was earlier this year, is the Taliyah jungle, which to me is a specific pick if you have setup, and you had very good setup in all 3 lanes for the Taliyah. What was the logic behind you guys using this champion that we don't see very often? Was it just the ability to secure kills in lanes and respond to some of the globals and have that presence in the side lanes later?
It's just something that we've been very comfortable with in the past, and Bobby sort of wanted to pull it off during summer, and we had a lot of success with it. So we just thought, it's one of our comfort drafts. If you know, like what I'm saying is like it's probably not the best draft theoretically, but it just felt like it was working really well for us, and we felt very comfortable around it. So just thought it's a good time to pull it off. Since every other team had already seen it, right? It was just only TL that had not seen, because we started playing it in 11-15.
Got it.
So it was the best time for us to show that we can play those champions.
Is this something that you like to play with in the jungle, Perkz? It sets you up for any kills, or what's your take on the Taliyah?
Not really, but like as a midlaner, you don't really like to play Italia because she's really bad at playing on mid. So it's just like it's the personal feelings. Like when I was playing Botland, I was actually trying to make Jankos play Italia. Italia is like so broken at ganking bot. So we were playing against like Karsa and like who was it? It was like RNG, and they were like playing Italia in streams and like running bot, and I was like, this shit isn't playable against. They just win every 3v3. But yeah, she's not the best playing around Midland. So
and to describe this is because a lot of the time her ult isn't going to be able to cut. You can always escape from mid lane when she ults, basically, right? There's always somewhere for you to run. Whereas in bot lane, you get kind of screwed because she can create that wall and just box you in from any angle. Or are there other reasons?
I mean, also like bot lane just has so much more CC, like mid lane.
Yeah. To set up the W.
It's like either like 1 second CC or something, and also in bot lane you can just like chase them with the wall, like either with ult or even with passive. You just run at them and like start hitting them, and then somebody will CC either AD or support. Generally, just better to go sides with Italia. But I mean, I like the draft. I think if I just pick different champ, like we would like to say, like it's like Italia is really good against Lee and Sejuani. I think if I just pick like a melee mid, like honestly, and literally anything, even if I play her next in the game, I think our draft is just hard winning. So I think like my pick wasn't horrible, but it was like not the most optimal, or like it wasn't the best pick I could do.
So you guys did win one of the games, and I think one of the reasons why most people picked you guys to win coming into the playoffs was because your use of globals and split pushing was kind of top of the league alongside EG, and it seems like that's the way that the meta is shifting overall. Was this a conscious decision you guys made? Because I was talking to Larson a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying that the split pushing has become a lot stronger due to the gold increase on the tier 2 turrets, has made it a lot more attractive to split push, and it seems like split pushing is a viable strategy that can compete with the dragon stacking for the first time in the last couple of years. Has this been a shift you guys have noticed as well, and like a conscious direction that you've taken the team?
Yeah, but split pushing is not the same as it was like 4 or 5 years ago. Like you actually have to fight at some point.
Sure.
Whereas before you could actually.
Yes, you could never fight.
You just end the game.
Yeah.
Like,
So this time around you do have to fight. It's just that because you can split push, you can gain yourself a gold advantage before soul fight that is gonna make your fight favorable in theory, right? But and then you can, you're gonna have more towers, and if there's no soul condition anymore for like 5 minutes, then you can like take over the jungle and even get a bigger advantage and so on. But at the end, like split pushing is just like it's a word that is like you have to use very carefully because
yeah, it's a broad term.
yeah, it's not that simple anymore.
Sure. Yeah. But have you felt that all using split push, even though it's a broad term, has it enabled your style, Perkz? So do you feel more comfortable because the game you guys won, you were playing on Rise and you could kind of exert more solo pressure on the map? It looked like, game 3 looked like what I expected this series to be from you guys. You on the Rise, or another champion that can provide pressure like the Twisted Fate. Like this seemed like your bread and butter over the last few weeks and was a pretty solid win.
Yeah. I mean, it just depends. Like I just prefer winning, I guess. So I don't really have like a preference of styles. And I think currently it does feel like in NA, especially if you play if I play TF or Rise, the game does feel very free most of the times. In scrims and on stage. There's some other champions that I'm comfortable with that maybe I haven't shown as much yet, so I will not like reveal those. But
of course not.
I think that kind of I know what kind of style I want to play now, and even though we did win a lot of games with Oriana in the past in C9, I feel like she's actually a little bit of a bait. Like she's kind of just AFK champ. You cannot do anything with her, besides like carry on like 2 items team fights, right? So I think every champion has the right moment to pick it in. I just think that, there's some, I guess, some that are just better. But we'll see. We'll see this Friday. It's gonna be fun.
Well, we'll talk about those Friday matches. I want to take a moment to look at some of the plays that were actually happening in your matches. Brought to you by AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, and secure. And so we're going to take a look at the game you guys actually won. If you want to check out on Discord, you can watch along with me. So it's one of the early plays that really started to get you guys a lead was around this Herald fight, where you guys really quickly committed to this, and Blabber was kind of clogging the choke with the Xin Zhao ultimate while you were able to get the early kill onto Core JJ. So what were the comms and calls like in this moment, knowing that you were going to take this fight and getting your first kind of foot into the game, into the lead?
I don't actually remember exactly. I think they were just running it down. I don't really know. I mean, I think
it was the second Herald fight, that one, the one you saw.
I think we were just stronger than them, and
they started
it.
Well, we had the second clip here where we're looking at the fight in bot lane, where you ended up coming into the fight a little bit later, Perkz, and then Fudge ends up showing up with the teleport very late on, but then you end up turning the fight around. So what were the calls that were coming around in terms of Fudge getting into the fight at this point in time and you guys continuing to play this out?
Oh yeah, I mean, we got some chunk, but then they went deep. I think we were fine with burning right in TP. Then they overcommit, so we chose to fight them instead.
So finally, we have the actual securing of the game. This was a tough call because you guys were going to have to give up the Mountain Soul potentially, but you ended up trading it for the Baron and then using the Baron to convert in. Was this a hard call to make, considering that you are somewhat reliant on poke with Varus, and the Mountain Soul can be very effective, delaying these sieges at all? Is this the trade you wanted to make? You were split pushing in the top lane and providing that pressure, which, you know, ended up getting the minion wave in a great place for you guys to finish out the game, Perkz.
Well, my Jinja just died like prior to this, so no, we did not want to give up soul.
You did not want to give up soul, yes.
It was not a voluntarily charity. it was more that we had to give up soul. If anything, I think I should have just gone top lane earlier. That was my bad. So yeah, I think our trade was fine anyways. I think I should have gone top earlier, and then we'll be alright.
But they had a huge gold lead at the very least. Were you nervous backstage when they made the soul for Baron trade at all, or were you confident that they were going to be able to close out the game on the Baron play?
I mean, I thought the game was over like 20 minutes ago.
That's fair. But I thought it was then. It was over then too.
But then it wasn't. So like after the first big throw, I was concerned that we might just throw again, because when we lost Baron, they actually had a chance. I mean, they don't really have the tools, and we have Thresh, so they can't really engage on us. But Jinx was bound to get 4 items, and I thought maybe they have a chance after that. So yeah, I feel like we were in control of the game, and then when we basically flipped Baron, we was not very good, I think. Like after that, I thought maybe we can lose.
I mean, it did seem a little bit suspect that you could actually lose this game, though, considering the massive gold lead that you guys had, even with the soul. Were you satisfied kind of with the play of this game overall? Did you feel that this was going to be a turning point in the series? Because game 4, you guys had a pretty significant lead as well, and it looked like for a while there, that we were going to go directly to a game 5.
I mean, I thought that once we win this game, there's definitely. I mean, I thought the game was like pretty bad. Like it was just pretty poorly played. Like a lot of the fights was us getting, like, this fight starts with us getting caught and them overextending. So it's not like we reliably got leads. But I still felt like we gained. I thought we could gain some confidence from this game, and then, like I mentioned earlier, like take Varus the game after that and do our Talia strategy, and then TL might just be 0-2 down, and then they'll crumble. So because I was very confident in the Renekton Talia thing, so I just thought, like, regardless of how this game turns out, if we get to win it, I think we have a really good shot at making it 2-2, and then having the mental momentum. So that's how I viewed it. But I just thought it should have been a lot cleaner than it was.
How was the atmosphere in the team, Perkz, after winning this game? Did you feel like things had turned around for you guys and that you were going to get back into this series?
I think the atmosphere was fine. I mean, I definitely thought we could win. And I never really know if you're gonna win for sure, right? It's not like I just like I push a button and then we're gonna reverse it.
Well, I mean, you do seem to have supernatural powers at certain points in time, Perk. I have to admit that you've accomplished some extraordinary things. So it's sometimes difficult to believe that you can't do that, in fact.
But yeah, I mean, I thought to myself when I went to toilet, I was like, yeah, it would be kind of funny if we just like intercept them. Like, it would be kind of funny, but it ended up not happening. So I think it's fine. It makes it a better storyline to win the lower bracket.
Like I said, TSM did it last summer. Just they lost the Golden Guardians in the first round, and then
0-3.
Yeah, they got swept,
and they looked very boosted.
I mean, they always do, but especially then. And so yeah, then they ended up coming back and winning the entire season. So we'll ignore the world's part with them, but they did well temporarily. However, like we've certainly seen it. It's certainly possible, especially for a team that comes together at the last second. And you guys certainly have the players and the skill level pound for pound in order to do that. Let's talk briefly about Game 4, because I can imagine that game was very disappointing for you, because you had this huge advantage. You had won this fight. It was like a 5v2 at the Baron. I agree that you kind of had to take that fight, considering that you were down a little bit in gold at that point in time. But it is tough to lose the Baron in that fashion. But I don't think it was the wrong call. Mithy, did you have any coaching words of what happened in Game 4? It just seems kind of unlucky. How did you coach them?
Okay, I mean, I personally thought like I just like I think at the like if I was a player, I would flip Baron too.
Yep.
100%.
Yeah.
So I agree with their decision in the sense that I would do it too. But realistically speaking, you want to be at a point in a team where you can have the confidence that you can make a winning play base, and that then you're gonna get another winning play after that, or that you're gonna get the setup for yourself to be in a comfortable spot, and you don't have to flip the game. Even if there's like a 20% chance that you lose that Baron, it's still 20%. So like from a coaching perspective, I just think it's not what I strive to have the team like be in the mindset of, but rather just be like, what, maybe we take the suboptimal play of like basing here, and then hope like we just killed everyone, we took all their shutdowns, we can come back in the map, we're gonna set it up, and then we're gonna make a proactive play of our own, and it's gonna get us the Baron in a good condition. But I mean, it's just hard. I mean, I think it's just like the roller coaster of the game. Like we struggled to close out the game before when it was very free, and then after that we're playing into their condition for the whole early game in Game 4 and just like losing the whole game basically, and we just feel like we just see very dark, and it's very hard from in that moment to have like belief that it's fine, guys, like we just gotta come back, play, let's base, and like now we're back in the game, sort of.
Well, it's also hard because I think like when you're a player, you don't have access to see like what the global gold is or anything like that. So
yeah, so it's more on feeling, right? And even if the goal is even, they'd still probably lose sides, because of the itemization and the champions and so on, like at that point. But we will have the map set up in a way where maybe we can screw with them on sides, if they're trying to push their leads a little bit too much. But yeah, I think generally it's just like the early game just went so poorly that, like after not having a clean win the game before and the early game going so poorly and us struggling so much, it just felt like if we don't get Baron, we are not winning,
Yeah.
And I think in Game 3, we also had a similar situation happen to us where it's like we killed them. Yeah, it was the top lane that we just saw, right? Where we like killed them there and went Baron.
Yep.
And it sort of felt similar, I'm assuming, from a player perspective, like the game after that on Game 4, where it's like, oh, we just killed them top side. Oh, let's go Baron. That just happened last game and we got it, so let's do it again. So it's just, yeah, it's not. It's what it is.
Yeah, especially after you've been losing for a while and you feel like this is the only shot that we have to get back into this game, because you can't see, or you don't feel potentially that you just, oh, we got all the shutdown gold, we're now like almost even with Team Liquid, we can maybe create a better situation later on now that we're more on even footing, especially since we just won a fight and won it and had 5v2 left over. That could theoretically happen again, especially considering you are on more even terms with the gold lead and the itemization after that point in time. But that's a hard decision to make in 2 seconds within a game, that you have to make that call. And here's the other thing: if you guys had gotten that Baron, you almost certainly would have won that game, and we wouldn't be having this conversation. So it's easy. I think it's easy to look at in hindsight, but it was very low probability that Santorin was going to be able to steal that. But I agree, like there was enough probability, right, that it maybe wasn't worth it. But
it's just
hard to know.
You need to account for the emotional baggage of the series also, right? Like the things that happened before that led to that moment that make you be more inclined to take a flip over not taking it.
I think it's just the game is like losing situation. I think it's not even like there's obviously like always emotions to the game, but it's like from my and Fight's perspective, we're just gonna get pushed inside the rest of the game. Like we were not gonna win, and they also have mid prio, so it's like even if you get mid prio S4 and get vision, they would still have side pressure, and nothing would really change in my eyes. So to me, I thought, wow, they are so elo boosted. They all of them, like they just died. Like listen, just TPD for no reason. They're just inting like we should just get Baron right now, and then we can actually win. And even if you get Baron, it's like I would say we have like a higher chance of winning than losing, but it's like it still wouldn't be free. Like it's still
Sure.
hard for us to actually play against the champs. Like we have nothing reliable to get onto Ziggs and nothing reliable to get onto Jace. Actually, we just want to play from poke. But I think if we get Baron and we got the gold and we got like the tier 1 turrets, we will be probably like even in gold to 1k up, and then we will have like enough damage to just kill their front end, like kill the Sejuani and Lee Sin, and that will probably be like the turning point. I think if we don't have enough damage to do that, if I don't have voice stuff, if Sven doesn't have third item, I think then we just can't. Basically.
Were you surprised by the Sejuani pick and the priority that they put with the Sejuani onto ganking you in mid lane, Perkz? Because that didn't seem that didn't seem like what Santorin would be playing in this series. It seems like what Armeo would have been playing previously. But I think it's pretty shocking to see that, and I think it was pretty shocking to see him either with the Trundle or Sejuani just like flashing onto you at level 3 and trying to make those kill plays right off the bat.
Yeah, I mean, I think they definitely got to my head because, like that game 4, I definitely felt more like that's when emotions came in. I definitely felt like more desperate than the other games. But looking back at the series, like I actually died to only 2 ganks in that series, and in game 4 we were just taking fights. How is it called? Consciously. And it wasn't actually as bad, but it made it still like they were putting a lot of pressure around mid, so it made me like make worse decisions, I think. And I think that was basically the big issue in game 4 for our team. I mean, besides that, I think I hope we meet them again, and I hope they play the same stuff again because I was laning against Jensen the last game, and he was getting like auto space level 1, and I couldn't believe it. So I thought already after like level 1 trades, I thought, wow, this game is gonna be an easy ride. But then like then we started taking some fights, and it was very well. Yeah.
Well, I hope you get another shot as well, because we're going to take a look at some stats here of you versus Jensen. Because, you know, Perkz, I've been kind of sick of some bullshit that's being said about you right now with a lot of the fans. So we're going to look at the Stat Hub powered by Microsoft, and we're going to compare you and Jensen over the course. So this is the summer split regular season, and I think what's kind of ridiculous is that a lot of fans are trying to like say that you've had like a weak laning phase, which has been absolutely completely untrue over the course of this season. In fact, if you look at your first blood percentage right here, you have double Jensen's first blood percentage. And if you also, that's just you getting first blood. If you count in your assists on first blood, you're up to 30%, which is number 1 among all mid laners in the league. You have some of the highest gold differentials at 10, CS differentials at 10. You know, you're very high in kill participation, higher than Jensen in total damage percentage of the team. You have been doing very well this season, even though I think people look at isolated incidents, like they look at the, you know,
I think I had some games, where I was like just running it down. Like
your Zoe game versus TSM,
yeah, Zoe and Renekton.
That wasn't great.
I think I had the Zoe, Renekton, and TF game that like I was actually just completely inting. I think I don't know what was happening in those games. Sometimes it happens.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, I think besides that, I've actually had a pretty decent individual split. I think when a team is struggling, and I ain't like those kind of games, I think it's really fine for me to be the scapegoat. I don't mind that, because I guess I am who I am, right? So they will like always like they will either praise me or flame me. Like even like when my team is winning and I'm not actually doing anything, I will get praised. Like in the past, you know, and when we are losing, I might not be the sole reason why we're losing, but I will get flamed because that's just like the nature of my career nowadays.
Sucks to have won so much that now everybody.
But it's fun. It's fun because it's like I have to deal with it. You know, I mean, like in a way where I have to make it sure it doesn't affect me. Like I try not to read. Like I actually just don't go on Reddit.
That's
to read comments. I just go on Reddit to like see like some like either like patch notes or the updates right about League. I don't check comments. I just don't press on the mini commenting. That's that's a pain.
Don't ever do that.
And Twitter as well. I just don't spend a lot of time on Twitter.
See, the truth is, here's the truth. The more trophies you win, the more haters it spawns, unfortunately. So, but also the more fans you have. So I'm sure there are a lot of people out there supporting you, but I just noticed that there have been some really weird narratives that are not borne by any stats. Like, yeah, you had a couple good or bad games, but overall, if you look at your performance over the course of the season, you've been among the top mid laners in the league. I think it's just hard for people to remember that when what they want to hate, and so the bad games kind of stick out in their mind. But even if we look at that TSM game, like, you guys should have won that game all the same, and a lot of that was because of your Zoe played later on in the poke that you were giving later on in that game. So
the bubbles.
Yeah. So we'll take a look here alongside with the Stat Hub powered by Microsoft. We'll look at the stats of you guys just in the playoff series that you played as well, and we can keep an eye on this throughout the playoffs. So you guys played these 4 games, and yet your individual performance, again, you had an almost 82% kill participation across 4 games, which is ridiculous, ridiculously high. Very low death percentage. You weren't getting first blood this series because Santorin was ganking you a lot of the time at level 3, but you were still up overall.
I was getting first blood.
yeah. Unfortunately, Jensen didn't have the 75% first blood, but it was very clear that they were focusing you with the jungle pressure. But point is like, you were still making a lot of plays, a lot of contributions over on the map, and despite having been first blooded, you were still out there making plays on the side lanes and making sure that you were in the right place at the right time to pick up an over 80% kill participation, which is really, really fucking high.
Oh, keep in mind, I played Viego versus Syndra as well. Like,
yes,
I'm still up in CSD. I think if I played the Syndra,
that's a very hard matchup.
If I played the Syndra versus Viego, I think I would be up in CSD.
You're just crushing him. So, I mean, I think Jensen and Santorin both had very good series, especially considering what we saw from them in the regular season, or didn't in Santorin's case because he wasn't there. Like, they definitely stepped up during these playoffs, but overall, I think statistically you were doing quite well, and especially if you factor in game 2, like you're saying, where that's an ugly lane given the Viego nerfs and the Syndra buffs. That must not have been very fun.
I think we definitely got a bit mid jungle gapped, or like as a trio, at least mid jungle support. Like, we didn't perform as well as them, but that's just like, again, something they take from the games. You learn, you understand what kind of champions you want to play, what kind of style you want to play. I played like AFK mid, then I played melee mid, then played 1 game of Rise. That was nice. So we'll just figure it out. We'll see.
Perkz, what's with or Mithy rather? What's your take on Perkz's mid lane performance this season overall as a laner? Do you feel that criticism has been justified, or are you more in the boat that things have been pretty good overall?
Well, I mean, I think Luca has a lot of experience, and he knows what he wants for his lane, and he expects certain things. And I think what he's been struggling with this year is not getting what he expects and not playing around the current condition that he's in very well. So let's say he is supposed to get someone to help him here or there, or he's supposed, like, something has to influence his lane that doesn't influence his lane. And I don't think he has done a good job at like accepting that, and then just like falling behind if he has to, and then getting an advantage elsewhere, like in the mid game, or with other strengths that he has, like team fighting, or just general side laning, just making a call even though he's behind in the game himself. Like all of these things, I think has been like his biggest thing. And I think, I mean, just from playing with him myself, I know how it is. It's just like it's his personality. He wants to be in control of the game, and he wants to get ahead early, and he has the skill to do it. So I mean, I remember when I played with him too, it was the same thing where him and Trick would have bad games, and I would get stressed out, and we would like try to salvage his bad game instead of just like playing on other conditions. Or I would like make a mistake and not help him, and then he'd die for it, and I'd feel responsible, but at the same time, it's also his responsibility to, play around my mistake, right? But it's very hard. Like it's easier said than done, though. And I think that's like been his thing. Is that obviously it's like a big team swap, and like you're playing with similar players for like 2 years, and then you expect things from them that you don't get anymore, and then you have to talk things through. And in game, it's like impossible really to talk about these things. So that I think that's been his struggle. But I mean, it's pretty clear to say that overall he's been having a good performance in terms of like the champion pool that he has, the versatility that he has, and like the influence that he has in our team. So I think that's a good summary.
I think that's very eloquent, with Perkz needing to perhaps lose more gracefully sometimes, or figure out the alternate win conditions. It can be tough though when you want to smash lane every game and try to lead the team by carrying them yourself, but not always possible. Well, thank you, Microsoft, for the Stat Hub. Appreciate it. Very interesting to look at some of those stats from Perkz over the regular season, and of course the one summer playoff match we've seen so far. It would be a great time if you are so inclined to hashtag Puma in chat. If you are over 18 and live in North America, you can get a Puma gift card. So that'll be announced in there. So drop those hashtag Pumas and we'll pick somebody towards the end of the show. I'm going to talk a little bit to you guys about Golden Guardians and the rest of the playoff run. And after that, if you guys, after you're done spamming hashtag Puma, if you guys have questions, we'll do a little bit of Q&A in about 10 minutes or so. So let the hashtag Puma spam die down. Then I'll take some questions from you guys if they're good. So let's look forward. You guys have Golden Guardians next. It seems like, this match you guys should be on top of. It's a little bit of a vengeance match for Licorice potentially from last year, considering he's no longer on Cloud9. Is this team also has been performing a lot better later in the season, and I would say probably is better than Dignitas right now, although it's pretty close. What is your take on the new iteration of Golden Guardians and how much of a threat they are, Mithy?
I think they've gotten infinitely better since they got Licorice. It just feels like their early game is a lot more systematic, and they're actually able to pressure in the early game. I feel like that's probably going to be like our hardest time, is just fighting them early, because we've been struggling with our early games lately. And then in mid game, I think they've also gotten better, like at snowballing their early game leads. But I don't know how well they'll do if like they're not in a very winning position and the game is like sort of even, or if they're behind. I think it's just mostly like, I think Licorice has just been like a bit of a stabilizer for the team, and like just taught them like some fundamentals that they really were desperate need of. And that's why they've been looking a lot better, because they've been getting better earlies and they've been able to close out the games. And that was something that they were never winning early before, and they were just not closing out any games. If they ever had a good early game, it would just become a fiesta, right? So they were just not really a team before, and I think now they're decent for sure.
What's your take on Ablaze Olive, Perkz? Because I think he's quietly been kind of good this season, actually, especially in the laning phase and mechanically, but we haven't heard a lot about him. But I think a lot of people who look more closely at the league are intrigued by this guy and think he's kind of performed better than expected. Has that been your experience of playing against him?
Yeah, I would say so. I think he's actually been, pretty decent. I think, if anything, like I even thought like he was playing better than some of the other mids that are being hyped. So I definitely think he's actually not a bad opponent, and he's not like to be underestimated by. He has some of the picks that he also plays that are unique. So I hope it's gonna be a fun match against him.
You guys are obviously expected to win this next match. I
hope so.
I think a lot of people who just look at the names might assume that this is going to be a sweep, but I think probably Golden Guardians has gotten good enough that they can probably win a game, or make this series closer than most people might realize. If you guys do win, you'd be heading into the loser of 100 Thieves and EG. I assume you'd rather face 100 Thieves at this point in time, but what would your preference of opponent be right now?
Yeah, I definitely think 100 Thieves is like worse than EG, so I'd prefer facing 100 Thieves. That's basically just that. Yeah.
Do you have a preference, Mithy?
I mean, I agree. Honestly, I low-key want to play EG. I just think it would be hype. I mean, at this point, where losers
You can
bracket,
always play
so,
EG later. That's an option.
That's true, yeah. That's true.
Play EG in the finals. I'd watch that.
I mean, that would be fun. That'd be fun. I mean, I was just thinking not get to play EG later, so I just thought. I mean, it just like EG has been a team that we've been struggling against this year. So I just thought, now that we're in losers bracket, and it's all or nothing. I think it would just be fun to play EG over 100 Thieves. That's all.
Honestly, I kind of just want to play against Steel. I want it to be us against Steel as the last spot for Worlds. That's kind of what I envision. And then we will see who will be victorious, guys. Then we will see it.
All right, so Perkz, because you're clearly frustrated. You clearly think you guys should have beaten Team Liquid. You also, therefore, must think that Team Liquid is not as good as many people are giving them credit for after beating you. So, do you think that they're going to beat TSM? Who is more boosted, TSM or Team Liquid?
Actually, I think TL's played very well against us. But as I mentioned, I'm not happy with my performance and our team's performance and the drafts that we played. No offense, Mithy. I'm just not happy with them. It's even if the drafts are good or not, I wasn't happy with them.
To be clear to Mithy, it was very no one would have guessed that Team Liquid would be playing 2 games of Lee Sin mid and running the Ziggs and all this other shit that they did. So that I think it's forgivable.
It's fine. But what I'm saying is that in general, we as a team, I think we play much better when we've already seen at least one best of 5 from somebody. We've seen somebody play a best of 5. It's much easier to see the tendencies and their preparation. So I am, a little bit. I wouldn't say worried, but I'm pretty wary of Golden Guardians because we actually haven't seen them play Snake. Sure. I'm very grateful we actually got to screen them that one time because I think I learned a lot about them from screaming them. Just one scream block. And other than that, we'll have seen every other team play on stage before we play them. So I think it should be very easily winnable. If anything, I think if you win against Golden Guardians right now, we'll probably win the splits. If not, we have a very, very long vacation and a lot of time to visit the Grand Canyon and do some bungee jumping there.
You should go to the Grand Canyon. It's beautiful. I hope you do it in December or later in November after you come back from China, rather than now. But I would encourage you to do that, Perkz. In fact, you can hike all the way down to the bottom and stay down at the bottom. There's a hotel down there called Phantom Ranch. I've done that. It's great. Yeah.
There's other ways to get to the bottom, free fall.
That might be a metaphor for your playoff performance if you're not careful. So so beyond that, let's talk about TSM versus Team Liquid and your predictions in some of these other matches. Having played against Team Liquid and as well as very recently, and then TSM in your last week, and I assume you've been scribbing TSM as well. Who do you think is going to win and get the first world spot?
I don't know. What do you think, Mithy?
I think TL has a slight better chance, maybe. I just don't know what TSM is gonna show, honestly. But I think if they play the same way, if they play into TL's games, probably TL favorite. I'm not sure. I think it's actually going to be very close.
Do you have any predictions, Perkz?
Well, I thought last split that TSM would beat TL.
Reasonable given the jungler situation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and since they lost back then, it makes me want to say TL is going to beat TSM. But I do think TSM has been playing better this split than they have last split. And I think TL has been playing versus split than they have last split. Besides, let's disregard the series against us. I think the series against us could have been I'm not saying it was a fluke. I think it could have been a fluke in terms of very good prep and showing up on the day and us playing really shit. So it could have been. I'm not saying it was, but I would give it. It's like a. It's very close. Yeah, I would say like 55 TSM, 45 TL. It will be
Okay.
like my prediction.
Fair enough. And I assume you guys both think EG is gonna take out 100 Thieves.
Yeah,
I think so.
probably.
I think so.
All right. If you guys have questions, you guys can drop them in chat now. I'll ask finally about the other losers bracket series, which is Dignitas versus Immortals. Seems like Immortals would be the general favorite, given Dignitas's decline over this split. But do you have a different opinion?
It's fair opinion, fair prediction. I would agree with you. I concur.
I see. My problem with Dignitas is that the way they win lanes, or the way they win games, this split has been through the bot lane and like jungler to a certain degree, and it seems like the bot lane has been really disempowered this meta, and like their solo lanes just are not strong enough, especially I think if you compare to the top side of the map on Immortals. And Immortals, in a way, having their weakest part be the bottom lane is the least of a liability right now, would be my take on it.
I mean, that's for sure a good take. I just think I think Dig can do damage.
Okay, let's see here. Let's see here. Perkz, question for you. Do you think that burnout has something to do with C9 being unable to perform during summer? Obviously, it's very difficult, I think, to come off of MSI and immediately start back into the summer split. Has that been a factor for you guys? You haven't seemed particularly burnt out to me.
I haven't really struggled that much with burnout this year. I think I've been pretty good at like balancing when the weeks I would practice very hard and play like 30 games a week, and then the weeks that I play like 5 or 10. Besides that, I've been feeling a bit more burned out recently. I think it was because of like I had this problem with like lack of sleep for a bit, and then like we streaming all those second blocks and stuff. So it's been definitely getting a bit to me. But I think that in general, like our team atmosphere is pretty good, and I think that yeah, that's why like because of like our steadily improvements in scrims, disregarding yesterday's scrims, I will actually let them fly away from my mind. But besides the rest of the scrims, I think in general we had improvements, and that's why I was like basically shocked that we lost to TL. I really expected us to just win. So I now have like a kind of like I'm watching a lot of anime recently, so I'm having like this like crazy anime type. Like
what are you watching? Because people are going to want to know.
Anime stories. I watched Jujutsu Kaisen, but now I'm watching Vinland Saga. Speaker recommended me the Vinland Saga, so I've heard it's good. It's pretty good. I like Vinland Saga, and so I'm just getting like really motivated right now to just like smash through the lower bracket.
That's like it's the arc of every single sports anime there is, right? Which is that you have to come from the bottom as the underdog. That's mandatory.
It's true, exactly. I mean, like I've won a few splits from the lower bracket before, so I think it shouldn't be the most impossible thing to do. Considering the last summer champion has also been from lower brackets. I think there's like some stories aligning here.
So Mithy, have you done anything as coach in order to try and mitigate the burnout? Have you had them take breaks on certain weeks, or like slow down the practice a little bit? I know you guys were amping it up and trying to get night scrims in towards the end of the season, so it seemed like you were increasing practice the closer you got to playoffs.
Yeah, we haven't done too much about it. I mean, we've just been keeping tabs on everyone and seeing how they feel, and then we've just been like towards. I mean, we just had a very bad regular split, and I just really didn't feel like we had any direction. So we had to start doing some night blocks, because basically the LCS system is just absolutely god awful. So yeah, we just don't have the time to scrim unless we scrim on game days, and that's just usually terrible. Either the scrims are terrible, or it's terrible for the players to scrim after they won or lost. So I mean, it's just the whole like LCS system was just terrible, and that sort of affected the players. And it's also very hard to take a break when you only really have 3 days that you can scrim.
Right.
So I mean, it's been rough for sure. It's been definitely a very strange year
Yeah,
for me,
I agree with that.
and I think it's for the players too.
I really hope there are not 3 days of LCS next year.
Yeah, I hope so too. Because this, like,
Or
I actually,
if they have to be days of LCS, maybe they can do like a human system, like the one they have in the LPL or LCK, where they do like a best of series instead of
yes,
best of ones, which are
yes,
is completely against all kinds of competitive integrity to play best of ones. It's only good for the viewers. It doesn't showcase any sort of.
It's not really good for the interviewers either.
Yeah, well, that's what they say, right?
We're biased because we watch a lot of League of Legends, so it's definitely not good for the hardcore viewers.
We
that.
watch and play League of Legends and understand that the game is, you can't tell who the better team is by playing a best of one. So it's basically just like.
And I think the more you play, the less it even, like, the less important it is as well, because it's just like, as a player, you just cannot, like, I played, considering like MSI as well and looking, like, I played like 60 best of ones this year or something like that, and that's just like I'd rather play like 20 best of threes and 60 best of ones. You know what I mean? Like I can't like get as myself. I can't get into like the right mindset for every single best of one I play. Instead of it just basic, like what Mithy mentioned. Like I think in LPL, most weeks you play only one best of threes, and then you have like 1 or 2 weeks where you actually play 2 best of threes. Or
in LCK you play 2 a week typically.
I meant in LPL.
No, I know. I'm just. I understand.
Okay.
I'm comparing it.
Okay. Yeah. So it's like, it's still like, I was actually getting hyped for the system before I came to NA, because I thought like more games on stage the better. But this is just like, it's absolute animal in Fiesta, and that's why we see like so many. I think that's why we see so much more inconsistencies as well from the teams. The practice is unreliable and
makes the region worse too.
Yes, I think so as well. And it's just like, the stage games don't actually matter. Like if I beat TSM the one day and lose to, I don't know, CLG the next day, like what does this even mean to me? Like there's been like so many upsets this whole split that it just makes me think that the system is just not actually that. And also like on top of that, like it actually, I thought it would be like less scrim days, nice, more stage games, nice, but it's like stage days are actually so annoying, even though it's only one best of one. It's like a waste of time, and it's like you still get the adrenaline, so you still get like tired, and like if you don't, then you might just int like me. If I don't get adrenaline, like I'll just run it down because I can't like be in the mindset for it, and it's like it's actually annoying and tiresome, and it's not sustainable. Like I don't think I can do this year again, honestly. Like considering, let's say I make Worlds right now, and then I play next 2 months as well.
Yep.
With a lock-in, that was very annoying as well, and it was good for us. I think lock-in was good for us because we were a new team.
I think lock-in was a great tournament because it's like very helpful for teams in Spring Split to get all of that exposure and all of that experience. I think in general it was a very good idea. But I mean, it's just like the league system is just so god awful. It's
tell me about it. Look, guys, I've been on this crusade for 9 years.
it gets the viewers, right? It gets the viewers.
Does it? Like, there's nothing really to compare it against because it does. Like, clearly the viewership in Korea and China is fine, and the one time it was tried was with B streams and not spreading the games out over the entire week, right? And I think the issue too, to explain to people why, to help explain why you're frustrated, Perkz, it's because when you go into the studio, it takes approximately the same amount of time to play a best of one as it does a best of 3. And while that might sound crazy, it's the travel to the studio, it's the setup, it's the the warm-ups, doing all the stuff, getting on stage. So like by the time you're done playing a best of 1, it would take 1 to 1.5 hours to play a best of 3, like 1.5 to 1 to 1.5 hours more to play a best of 3. But what you gain is an entire day back if you're doing that twice a week instead of 3 times a week. Exactly, so it's so worth. So that's why he's frustrated.
It's not only that, but if you play a best of 3, you can actually go like as a coach, right? Like that, I can actually just review those games and be like, okay, how did we approach the series? How did we adapt to the series? What did we learn? What do we want to take onto the next week? But rather, if we have a best of 1 where we're like, you don't even know what they are going to play, what you're going to play, especially like everything is just so random. You go out the game and you're like, half of the time you're only talking about the draft. You don't talk about your adaptation and like how you played in game, and
or the game's a throwaway. Either you or the other team int early, and it's just like the game's over, and then you don't learn shit.
And it's just a waste of the day, because what do you want to? Even if, let's say, you can argue that you can scrim during those stage days, right? Let's say you scrim in like you warm up before you play on stage. Are those warm-ups really as effective as playing an actual practice like scrim day, where you're like preparing for something?
Well, they are not. We've tried them in G2 many times.
Obviously they're not, right? And then what if you play after you just lost? Or like, how is that helpful either? Because you have to book the scrims beforehand, right? Like, how is that helpful that you're just scrimming after you lost before you play the next game?
Yep.
Just to, I don't know. It's just so bad.
I'm with you guys 100%. I mean, I don't think that League of Legends as a game should ever be played in best of ones. And we can argue whether best of twos are good because they at least offer consistent scheduling, right? Where best of three is very hard to like schedule the next game. And I think one of the problems with like LCK, especially when I was casting, it was if it was a 2-0, we would literally just sit there for 45 minutes until the next game started with like a countdown timer. And that's not ideal either, right? If you want to have consistent times for fans to tune in. But they have been running best of twos in Academy. Is this something you would be open to, or even though I know you guys like the best of threes?
Well, if the regular split system is just supposed to be a show match system, because that's what it implies, right? Doing best of ones is just a show match. It doesn't really,
especially when 8 teams make playoffs, right?
Yeah, it's just show matches, right? So I think for a show match, it's just better to play a best of two, because at least that way you can actually tell if team is better than the other, or if it's like, whoa, it was a draw, ooh, those teams are like close matching to each other. Maybe that's what you want. Isn't that what you want from a show match? Like just getting to know like who's better or who's worse. You're not gonna get the specifics. Like, it's not a best of series. It's not a best of 5. You're not gonna know like the intrinsic behaviors of the teams, but you can get a good guess of how they're doing by playing a best of 2 against each other.
I agree. I mean, I definitely think like literally only upside of the best of ones is like the potential of upsets. Like, because it's really funny when, let's say, you see C9 TSM or somebody lose to like CLG, right, or Dignitas or something like that, But it's like the I think even the reward could be greater in like, let's say TSM beats C9 2-0, and you're like, shit, they're just much better than them right now, Maybe try again in the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks, or something like that, So I think it could be like beneficial, and it's also I think the benefit of the player practice will just be huge. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to have a year where I scrim 2 days a week again. Like, honestly, like even sometimes 4 days a week felt too short.
I mean, the fact is also, I also want the players to sometimes, the season is long, and after we come out of MSI, I would like to have like 2 days off instead of 1 day off.
Correct. Yeah.
And then we have 2 days of scrims, and it's like not enough.
2 days of scrims.
No, that was ridiculous this year. Although part of that was probably the pandemic scheduling. So I think I would guess it's not likely to happen next year, hopefully. But I sympathize with you guys a lot. I don't think that the way to make LCS competitive on an international scale is to play best of ones. And I don't think that best of ones have any place in this game for all the reasons that you've said. I also hate their best of ones in group stages at Worlds instead of there being double elimination GSL groups over best of threes. Like, that doesn't make any sense either.
I don't really know how competitive Riot is trying to make the LCS anyway, because they're showcasing ProView for us and not for any other region. So
yeah, that's also bullshit. But they couldn't do it for LEC. Well, okay,
yeah, sure. So not do it for anyone, right? Like, I'm just
they
saying,
do
like,
it for LPL. They do it for LPL.
You
have to log into the Chinese websites. They don't make it easily available to you, right? And they do it for LCK, but you have to have SKT telephone service, and it's only available via the mobile app in Korea, as I understand it. So I do think that
maybe they can make an AT&T a ProView here.
There you go. No, but seriously, I do think that they should, if you are outside of China and Korea, I think absolutely they should make it an option for people to be able to view the pro views of these regions. And I know with LEC, it's because the players aren't in the studio and there are some technical limitations, but also, yes, it does seem to give you a big disadvantage, especially when you go to international competition, that other teams just have insane footage on you guys that you just can't get from other people.
They wanted to release our voice comms as well.
Oh, I know.
Okay, just want to say that.
I heard
I mean,
that.
I'm just saying, like, because you're talking about like making LCS competitive, and I don't know if they really want to do that. So I'm just like letting you know that I don't think that's the case. I really doubt that
I think it's all about
things are going to change too
the
much.
cash, all about the cash. But yeah, the $10 million from Elderwood Orn was not enough, I guess.
Yeah. All right. Well, you guys, I know you guys have to get to practice with your next match coming up later this week. Thank you for coming on the show here. The Nines presented by AT&T. I know it's tough after a loss like that, but I believe that you guys can bounce back, and I appreciate your time and willingness to talk about it today. So thanks a lot.
Man.
We'll see you on another episode probably in the future. Have a good practice today and kick some ass later this week.
I'll absolutely
Thank you.
Nick again. Nick. They have no hope.
Bye-bye.
Bye.